You can hear me okay. I have got a microphone on, but sometimes it can be a little bit quiet, so let me know. There's people here already. Am I late? No, I'm just on time. That's always good. So there's a 15-second delay here. Kathleen Dolan, waiting patiently for one of my favourite Scottish men. I need reading glasses. I thought that said female Scottish men. Thought you had me all wrong there. Scranton, Pennsylvania. Vicky Favita, Mickey Jacobson. Hello everyone, you are in Utah. Wow, there's quite a bit of a kind of geographical spread going on out there tonight. Just thought I'd jump on and say hello. I've realised that I haven't done one of these in about 2 months, which is quite a while actually. I normally like to do them at least kind of once a month, but Christmas I suppose got in the way and there was all sorts of other stuff happening, so yeah, just thought I'd jump on and say hello. Can everybody hear me okay? Linda Mazur watching from Seattle. Texas, I think we've just about got the whole kind of geography of the US covered there. Marie Williams, hello. Beth O'Toole, howdy from glorious, not Ohio. What's wrong with Ohio? I've never been to Ohio, but I've never been to the States to actually come to that. But soon. Hopefully. Hildebauer, Dallas, Texas. Southern California, Dustin Whitaker. Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, Canada. I was looking at a map of Canada the other day. It's massive. I was trying to work out, what was I trying to work out? Trying to work out where, if I went to Cape Wrath, which is right at the top of Scotland, where would you land if you crossed the Atlantic? And I worked out it was probably somewhere around Newfoundland. It's basically nothing in between you and Newfoundland at that point. Marie Williams, hello from Newcastle, England. Been there on a night out. It was a bit wild. I remember lots of bridges and a boat. I don't know what was going on. You can hear me loud and clear. That is good. Big Island, Hawaii, cool. I bet you it is nice and warm in Hawaii right now. Imaginary Works Production, hello from Indiana, cool. Hello from Essex, Patty Ann Bevan, Essex. Is that Essex in England or is that Essex somewhere in the States? I just bought one of your Scottish t-shirts and I love them, thank you very much. Good, I'm glad you like it. Yeah, we've spent a bit of time making designs and things. Working on other designs at the moment. But yeah, it's always good to hear that people like them. I've got a drawer full of them, which is great. Means I don't have to think too hard when I get up in the morning about what I'm putting on. Beth O'Toole, I have an extra room. You can decide for yourself about Ohio. Argyll, New York, not far from Canada. Is that Argyll, New York State, not far from Canada? Hello from Bolivia, Missouri. Love your stories, Hildebauer. Great to watch on YouTube. Which brother are you watching on YouTube, Hildebauer? Are you watching me and the Graham, aka the Hoof GP? I was going to call him the Hoff GP there for some reason. There's a concept for you. Graham or James, there's another brother as well, and he does he's a very talented sculptor, and he's got a channel that's dedicated to his sculpture work. So if you haven't checked that out, check out James Parker's sculpture. It's really interesting, some of the stuff he does. He doesn't put up quite as many videos as me and Graham do because what he does takes so much longer. So there's maybe not quite so much content there, but what he has got is amazing. Very talented man. Not biased in any way. Don't tell him I said that. Graham, yes, Graham. So yeah, James is the other one. Mickey Jackson, you watch all three of us, cool. James, yes, James Parker sculpture. My husband also watches all of you, cool. Thank you very much. It's always good to know people are watching, because if they're not, it would all be a bit pointless, I suppose. Hoofs GP is very relaxed. A lot of people seem to watch his videos because it is like, it's just very kind of chilled. I can kind of see what I mean. It's almost like ASMR. You're kind of sitting there watching stuff going on in the background. But yeah, I've heard a lot of people I used to work with would somehow find my brother's videos, or I would mention them, and they would watch one and they would just get hooked on them, which led to some very strange conversations at work. But yeah, big up from EK, Barry Heggie. Right, Barry Heggie, where are we going tomorrow? we were going to go to Loudon Hill. So Barry's friend of mine, and we were going to go to Loudon Hill tomorrow and make a video about Loudon Hill, but it's too rainy, and apparently Loudon Hill. So there's a couple of battles that happened at Loudon Hill. Well, one that we know of, and possibly two battles. If you believe Blind Harry, who was a kind of a wandering minstrel who wrote about William Wallace, who wrote a lot of the so-called history about William Wallace, then there was a battle that happened there with William Wallace. But there was definitely a battle that happened there with Robert the Bruce. So we're going to go there, but apparently when it gets wet, the place turns into a total quagmire. So we're going to go somewhere else. It's always good to go for a walk in the middle of nowhere and get some and make some reels, which is always good. Phyllis Harrison, 3 o'clock USA Eastern Time, still working a bit longer. That's 8. Well, you can see behind me, it's just after 8 o'clock here, but I've still got stuff to do, and my kids are probably about to walk through that door any minute, and if they don't, my cat probably will, because he's just awkward that way. But yeah, thought I'd jump on. As I say, haven't done one of these in 2 months. Sorry about that. I always enjoy these because they're a bit more immediate. If you put out a video, you never really know whether the video is going to do well. You never know what the reaction is going to be. I'm always still slightly kind of nervous when I put a video out just to see how well it goes, because you just don't know until you actually put it out. Years ago, I used to do stand-up comedy, and that was very immediate because you knew whether you made the audience laugh or not, as might be the case. So it's kind of, this is like a kind of a halfway house between that and, say, writing books, which is the other thing I'm working on at the moment. But yeah, ask me anything you want. I will try and answer the question. If it's like history related, then I might know the answer. I might not know the answer. I can always go away and find out the answer if I don't. The whole point of this channel, I suppose, is that if you don't know, I'm not actually a historian. I am just somebody who likes a good story. So the reason I started this channel was because I kept kind of finding these stories or remembering stories. I've also got a weird memory for stories, effectively. And I would kind of go away and start researching them, and then find out that actually what I thought I knew wasn't really the case at all. And that's, for me, where it always gets more interesting, is when you start digging into things and finding that the real story tends to be a bit more fun sometimes. I think still my favourite video I've done was about Deacon Brodie, which was one of the first ones I did. Deacon Brodie was a guy who was Deacon of Works of Edinburgh. So he was a cabinet maker and a locksmith by day, but a notorious thief by night. So he was just a really interesting character to make a video on. A lot of kind of material, because it's quite a funny story as well, and it was a bit kind of farcical what happened to him in the end. But yeah, that was one of the first videos I did. I had a lot of fun making it. And that's why I love kind of researching things and digging out the facts, and sometimes they're what make the video more fun or more interesting almost. The first thing I was going to say was Scots are great storytellers. Hopefully we do okay. Yeah, we like to spin a yarn. You're at lunch in Iowa. Lisa McClelland. And Central Time USA. What Central Time is that? About 2? 2? No. If it's 3 in Florida, then it must. I'm useless. Time zones. Grumpy, hello from Germany. Did you try your luck as a stand-up comedian in the past? I did. I did a lot of stand-up comedy in the past. Even did the Edinburgh Festival at one point. So yeah, I loved it actually. But it's not. It's one of these things where a lot of comedians, the best comedians, tend to be quite kind of. They have something spurring them on, like, you know, whether it's an insecurity or they're maybe a little bit unhappy about something, and so they have something pushing them on stage. I got married and you know, got quite happy, and That's not conducive to being a stand-up comic. I did love it. I may well do it again one day. But yeah, in fact, we were talking about it recently. There was something I posted on Facebook. The BBC wrote an article about, if you don't know, there's this comedian in the UK called Kevin Bridges, and he's from Glasgow, and the article was about his first stand-up comedy gig, and they interviewed me on the BBC website, and it was quite strange because I was talking to people that I hadn't really spoken to in about 15 years, from back in the kind of comedy days, and interesting finding out what people are doing these days. So yeah, I did have a go at stand-up comedy. I did quite a lot in Glasgow and in Edinburgh. I even performed in Amsterdam at one point. Phyllis Harrison, good to see you in person. Thank you. What kind of books do you write? You write historical fiction from the 1600s. Cool. Put the title of your book up and get people to read it. Give it a plug. What kind of books do I write? So I've written 2 crime novels. I've written a kind of a comedy novel. In fact, yeah, I've written a comedy novel, 2 crime novels, and the book I'm kind of working on at the moment is it's kind of basically the story of Scotland Unplugged. What happens when you decide to go and do something completely different and going for a country effectively. So it's really just a collection of the kind of things I've seen just on my kind of travels, and it's still kind of ongoing. So we'll see how that pans out in the end. But yeah, a little bit of history, a little bit of kind of travelogue, that kind of thing. And yeah, I'm still going to keep doing the crime writing stuff. I self-published a book a few years ago, but then I took it down because I wasn't very happy with it. So I need to get those published properly sometime soon. I think this has stopped moving, so we'll see what's going on. How are the winters in Scotland? This year in the US, it was very short. Yes, here it's been very short as well. It feels like spring at the moment. It's kind of strange. It's like I've got bulbs that are in the garden, so I think they're crocuses. My wife would be able to tell you. In fact, I think Caroline's on there somewhere. You'd be able to tell me what are those purple flowers in our garden, by the way. I have no idea. I'm not a gardener. Marie Williams, you're the best storyteller. Thank you very much. Did I help my brother Graham with his book? Yeah, I did a little bit, yeah. So yeah, that's very much in the pipeline. Sage, a bard. Love your stories, thank you very much. Have you researched your family tree? I haven't researched my family tree. A few people in my family have researched my family tree, and my wife, Caroline's cousin, is like a proper full-on genealogist. So he's an ex-detective, and he basically went away, and he's really good at what he does. So my entire family tree is now on ancestry.com or ancestry.co.uk, and I could you log in and just see the whole thing going right the way back. And different branches going off in different directions. I found out that my great-granddad was born in a workhouse in Cumbria, or Cumberland as it was called then. So I don't know so my surname comes from his mother, so I don't know who his father was. We looked at kind of records and we thought it may be one of 3 people that were living on the same farm, the census that she was living on. She was a housemaid on a farm. One of them was called Roger Moore, which kind of appealed to my sense of humour, being a bit of a Bond fan. You said Bond villain there. Yeah, so I've had a look at my family tree. It's quite interesting. In fact, that was my great-great-granddad. My great-granddad, I don't know what happened with him. He started off working in a mill. It's very Dickensian. But then about 10 years later, he pops up on the census and he's a doctor, and nobody knows how that happened. That was a very unusual thing to happen in the 19th century. Ross McKee, my cousin, what are you up to? What about a video of all the plane crashes on Cairnsmore of Fleet? Yeah. I actually was down at Baldoon. So Baldoon Airfield near Wigtown, where I kind of grew up. It was a World War II training base, and what Ross is talking about was there are quite a few bits of wreckage on this hill. There's like bits of engine and things like that they didn't bring back down. And there were young pilots, and they would kind of take off from this airstrip, and they would sometimes crash into the hills. This was during World War II. Quite a kind of haunting place. But I was there recently when I did a video about the we call her the White Lady of Baldoon. She was called Margaret Dalrymple, so if you look on the channel, there's a video about that, and you can see a bit of the airstrip. But yeah, that's just an excuse for us to go up a hill, Ross, basically, which I'm up for. Nelson McClelland, yeah, 2 o'clock an hour, cool. Good source of stories can be found in the book Ghostly Tales and Sinister Stories of Old Edinburgh. Interesting. Sorry, I keep nearly switching this off. Maggie Gregg, sorry to be late. don't apologise. Watching the cameras at Doscone and working the day job. Doscone, how's the sheep? I suppose is the big question from Doscone. Phyllis Harrison sounds good. I don't know when it'll come out, to be honest, Phyllis. Hopefully it'll come out before Christmas. That'd be good. Crocus come up first in the garden. Crocus, Caroline, yes, those are crocuses. I'm doing well here. That's not bad. Are my kids upstairs watching this? Hello, if you are. Nancy leaves Dorothy, hi from Fort Myers, Florida. Cool. Bet it's nice and warm there. My mum's in Florida, actually. My brother's in Florida, and my sister-in-law and kids, I think, are all in, yeah, they must be. They're all in Florida at the moment, so I don't know if people are going along to meet the Hoof GP in Florida over the next couple of days. Families Clark, haven't started researching, but look forward to it. Thanks for the trips, thank you. Alice Gamble, Winnipeg, Canada. Probably temperature-wise a bit colder than it is here. Ross McKee, good exercise, yes. Crocuses, yeah, crocuses they look good. They're a nice kind of shade of purple. It's making me feel like proper kind of spring as well. I'm up for the spring. It feels like, even though it's been a short winter, I'm not a big fan of winter. Gallagher, you look like a German. You're not the first person that said that I look like a German. In fact, Barry Heggie, who's probably on here somewhere still, regularly tells me I look like a German. So yeah, I'm not even sure why. I don't have any German blood at all. So yeah, I was going to tell you about, you might have noticed, so over the past few kind of weeks, I've been putting out a video on a Monday night, but I'm going to move it because effectively, I think a Thursday night's probably a better fit. Time slot wise, Barry Heggie's still there. You did rework Jammin' by Bob Marley at one point, didn't you? He's German rather than Jammin'. Oh dear, things we used to do at work. Yeah, so I'm moving time slots. So now you'll find that the video comes out at 5 o'clock GMT on a Thursday night. I just think that's probably a nicer slot than a Monday night when everybody's kind of tired and the videos can maybe go a bit more under the radar. Whereas if they come out on a Thursday night, it almost feels like the start of the weekend for a lot of people, I think, Thursday night, although you've still got Friday to get out of the way. So from my point of view, I think that works quite well. So I'm going to start putting out videos on a Thursday night. So that starts as of 2 days' time, the next video, which will be about Tartan Mania. I've been up to Bannockburn in the last week, and I was basically in the birthplace of the modern tartan industry. The modern tartan industry? The modern tartan industry. It's really kind of weird. You would never think that there was a massive kind of factory there. But I'm not going to tell you too much about it because it's all going to be in the video. But that's what I've been up to. It's kind of a follow-up to the video I did about the Sobieski Stewarts, who were the two brothers that conned loads of people into believing some of the history that they'd made up, some of the kind of tartan history that they'd made up. Although tartan history, I mean, history has to start at some point, but a lot of it dates back to kind of a lot of the tartan you see dates back to the kind of 1820s, and some of it, some of the clan tartans that you see or named tartans date back to a bit earlier than that, although obviously tartan itself goes back a lot further. So just a kind of a thing about tartan history and the mania that kind of happened in the 19th century and how we got to where we are today and where it all happened. So that's the next video, and then the next video after that will be about Johnny Walker, the biggest Scotch brand in the world. And I always wondered who Johnny Walker was, because you see him on his label. If you've seen a bottle of Johnny Walker, he's got his top hat on and he's got his cane and his tails and things, and it's just interesting finding out who he actually was. So the kind of history of Johnny Walker. There's also a Johnny Walker Visitor Centre here in Edinburgh, which I'm going to try to go to as well. But I think a lot of the video is going to be shot in Kilmarnock, which I don't know an awful lot about, but yeah, should be a kind of a fun story to do. I also want to do another one about whiskey, where my uncle suggested that we should go to a local distillery back home, so I'm going to try and arrange that. Trying to do the most southerly distillery and the most northerly distillery, which could be interesting because that's somewhere up in the Orkney Isles. There's a new distillery. It's called Saxon Ford, but it's right next to a rocket launch site, where basically it's the new place for the UK space industry, which has kind of taken off literally and metaphorically. I'm trying to keep up with the comments here. Let's have a look. Arizona's 80 degrees. Wow, that sounds amazing. 3 inches of snow. Wow. Differences in temperature. I can see that change is a good one. See that change is good. Oh yeah, the Thursday night thing. Elsa McClelland. David Patrick, crazy timing that I catch this live stream as I was teaching a seminar today, University of Sheffield, on public history, and I used a clip of yours as an example of how to do public history well. Oh God. Thank you very much. Keep up. No pressure. Weirdly, I was a weird thing. I posted about this on Facebook, but weirdly, I went to pick my kids up from school, so I quite often do the school run, because a lot of the time I'm working from home. So I went to pick my kids up from school to take them swimming, and I got mobbed by 9-year-olds when I got to the playground, which was really odd. I thought, what's going on? And it turned out that my son's history teacher was talking about Mary Queen of Scots, and she said, here's a video by a very Scottish man about Mary Queen of Scots, and put it on, and my son was like, that's my dad. And yeah, so yeah, that was interesting. So now I'm going into the school to tell them about Mary Queen of Scots, so that should be an interesting afternoon for me, or morning for me, depending on how it goes. Not something I've ever done before, but yeah, that should be fun. I need to do a bit more research, I think, before I actually start talking freehand. It's all very well when you're editing it and cutting out the bits where you've waffled. But yeah, thanks very much, David. Remember Bannockburn? Yeah, that's where I was yesterday, actually. No, I was in Bannockburn on Sunday, not yesterday. What am I talking about? Grumpy, I'm German. I don't know where people get the idea that you look like a German. Would it be nicer if they just said you look good? There you go. You're German and you're saying I don't look German? I don't know. I can't comment. I'm on the inside of this thing. I don't know what I look like. Sounds great. Looking forward to Alex Gamble. Ever fancy doing a video about the Hamilton Palace? Sadly gone now. The Duke's Hunting Lodge. Oh, cool. Sounds interesting. Definitely looking forward to the Johnny Walker video. Johnny Walker's I had no idea how massive Johnny Walker is, because a lot of people these days especially seem to drink single malt whiskies, whereas Johnny Walker is obviously a blended whiskey. I'd really love to know who would win in a fight between Johnny Walker and Jack Daniel. Random thoughts that pop into your head. Germans are the most beautiful people in Europe, I think. Ah, well, there you go. It's good. They're definitely up there. My great-grandfather, Claude McCandless, went from the Highlands to Ireland, then to Pennsylvania. Yeah, I think a lot of people went from the Highlands to Ireland. the Scots-Irish, they call them, or yeah, Scots-Irish they call them, don't they? Single malt for me, Oban my favourite, sounds good. Learning about whiskey sounds, yeah, any excuse. It should be, I haven't told my uncle he's going yet. What else is happening? Slipknot. Yes, I mentioned Slipknot the other day, didn't I? He did. Alexander Peden's mask does look like Slipknot. This is all to do with Barry Heggie, because he said, have you ever been to this place called Failford? And I looked it up and I saw this thing, Peden's Cave. So if you saw the video, I went to Peden's Cave and it's like this mad looking place. It's all kind of red sandstone. It looks like Australia or something, obviously without heat. And I took my drone and I was like, I'm never gonna get this drone to take off. But then I had to go down to a place called Cumnock to do the rest of the video. So I went back with my drone, and yeah, it was quite tricky getting the drone up the steps without crashing it or putting it in the river. But I managed to. It was easier doing that than actually climbing the steps. So if you ever do go to Peden's Cave, please don't climb the steps, because it's a long way down into the river, especially when it's less of a way down when the river's up. But I think if you fell in there, you wouldn't get out very easily. Phyllis Harrison, you're getting a following. That's always good. Giving your son school cool credit. I'm making the most of it while I can, to be honest. I give it maybe 3 years, maybe 2 years before he's avoiding me at the school gates. You look more like my brothers than my German nephews. Ah, well, there you go. It's German, Scandinavian, Scottish roots have common similarities, kind of like the languages do. Yeah, and also where I'm from, Galloway, the Vikings kind of pitched up there. They recently, well, it's not that recently, but they found it's called the Viking Hoard, which was just a big, mad collection of treasure that I think it's called the Galloway Hoard, sorry. It was just a big hoard of Viking treasure that was buried somewhere down in Galloway. It's not public where it was found, because obviously you don't want people turning up and digging there. But yeah, it's there's a lot of Viking history where I'm from, but my ancestors haven't moved around much either, to be honest. Whoops. I keep nearly shutting this down. Marie Williams, question: what are your top favourite historical places in Scotland? That's a good one. I haven't seen enough of them. Places I'd like to go. I'd love to go to Skara and Orkney, but I've never been. I suppose an obvious one would be Edinburgh Castle. Just the kind of the history there is, there's so much that's going on. Although the castle that you see now has been built on and built up over time. But I'm always going to say Edinburgh. Edinburgh itself, just as an actual historical thing, you've got the old town, which is, it's like a city of two halves. So you've got the old town, which is, they had some of the first skyscrapers in the world, because you had all these tall buildings, and you had sort of certain, depending on how much money you had, you lived on a different level of the same building, but like now, I suppose. But then they got to the kind of 18th century and it was too overcrowded, and at some point one of these tenement buildings collapsed, and some people died, and so they got to the point where they decided they needed to build a new town. People had been pushing for that for a while, so now you have this city where it's this old kind of medieval part that's been built on over years, and you have a kind of an 18th century neoclassical, it's all like a grid. And it's not strictly a grid, but it's more or less a grid, and it was kind of built between the 18th and I think early 19th century. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it was, at the time, it was the kind of the Edinburgh Enlightenment was going on, so there were lots of discoveries in medicine and thought about kind of philosophy and economics and art and all sorts of things going on here, and they wanted to reflect that, so they built it in a neoclassical style and kind of called themselves the Athens of the North. So yeah, there's a lot to love about being in Edinburgh. I love Galloway because that's where I'm from, so you have things like Cairn Holy, which is a chambered cairn, and you have, I'm slightly biased obviously, but yeah, I also love the kind of the history. Like if you go to Drumnadrochit in the Highlands and you go to Urquhart Castle, just the history that's there as well is amazing. So lots of different places to see in Scotland. But yeah, I suppose I like Drumnadrochit. Culloden Moor's insane, just because of what's going on there, the kind of history there. It's I don't know if I would call it my favourite place, but it's it kind of gets you, if you know what I mean. And yeah, and things like the Antonine Wall, where you can walk along the Antonine Wall and you think, God, this was kind of built here by the Romans in what, 200 BC, 200 AD, I think. Maybe 200. I think it's 200 AD, maybe not 200 BC. But yeah, amazing kind of. To think that something's been there that long and it was actually built by people. I mean, we were walking along it recently and looking at it and just thinking, you know, this was built by people who didn't have kind of heavy tools or the kind of equipment that you would expect that they would have. Junior CJ82, what's one or more Scottish story you've been dying to present but haven't yet? Oh, there are so many. I wanted to do one about the guy who invented, well, it's debatable who invented the bike, isn't it? But there's, I forget his name. The guy who invented a version of the bike that kind of came to be what we use now. And he went to Glasgow and he came back with a fine for running somebody over or something like that. The person was okay, but he was probably one of the first people that got like a road fine effectively in the country. And just any kind of story where there's an edge of lunacy to it is always kind of interesting. If it's something that looks good, or is kind of quirky or funny or I suppose tragic, then I'll always be interested in doing a video about it. I'm also quite keen to do a video about the Bran Seer, who was a guy who supposedly predicted lots of things. I suppose he's like a Scottish Nostradamus. It's a story my granny told me when I was about probably 5 or something like that, and it stuck in my head. And it all happened up on the Black Isle, which isn't an isle, but it's like a kind of peninsula that sticks out at the northeast of Scotland. So I'm going to go and do a story about that as well. That's one I've kind of wanted to do for a while, just because I remember the story from being a kid. A lot of these things are actually just stories that I remember from being a kid and trying to find out what the real truth of it is. I like my white men. I like my coffee. Nice. Robert Anderson, what's the funniest place name you've been to? I don't know. There's so many weird place names like Auchtermuchty or Drumnadrochit or Ecclefechan. Trying to think. Yeah, probably. The weirdest place name I can think of is A. It's just A-E. It's a little village in Dumfriesshire, I think. But it's just north of Dumfries and it's called A-E. I don't know enough about whiskey to know which I like. Had some amazing, very peaty, very strong stuff. The only thing I know was that it was at the expensive end of the tasting and quite lovely. Maybe from Islay, I don't know, maybe. They love their peat there. A lot of people go there for the kind of peaty whiskies. My favourite was the story about Agnes. Yeah, the story about Agnes is one I've been meaning to tell for a while. It was really cool going there actually, just because that castle is quite something. And what you probably didn't see in the video was, in fact I mentioned it, was I nearly lost my drone. So I kind of sent it out to try and, it was windy and I sent it out to try and film the castle. And it was okay, it got so far and it wouldn't move. It was just stuck, kind of hovering in midair, and I couldn't get it to go backwards or to the side or bring it back in. And I got the most rapid onset migraine I've ever had. So that's obviously just pure stress, because I thought the thing was basically going to go in the sea, which would have been expensive, but luckily I got it back. Yeah, that was a fun one to do. Just quite a cool place to go, Dunbar, actually. If you're ever in kind of Edinburgh and looking for something to do and you've got a car, then I highly recommend going to East Lothian. It's a nice part of the world, North Berwick and Dunbar in particular. There's kind of castles along there. Dunbar Castle, you can't actually go into Dunbar Castle, but it's pretty good to see, and they're nice towns anyway. And Tantallon Castle's another one. I haven't been yet, but I'm going to go and do a quick kind of short video there. Ingrid Fong Daly. Culloden doesn't have a ton to see per se, but it's extremely moving. Yeah, it really is. I mean, I went to the visitor centre, but weirdly, going into the visitor centre, I didn't feel like I saw a lot of stuff. But yeah, the actual just wandering around and kind of looking at the different the bit kind of signage that tells you some of the story as well was interesting. I know you can do a tour there as well. Obviously, there are tour guides on site that will take you around the place, and you can go to the little kind of cottage, and which I think kind of fell down and then got put back together. But it was actually used so the cottage that you see in all the kind of, you'll see it in a lot of kind of reels and shorts and things, and it was in the Culloden video I did. But I think it was actually used as a place for injured Hanoverian soldiers, so not the actual Jacobites themselves, but the opposite side, because it was behind their lines, and it was used to kind of help injured Hanoverian or British government soldiers. Alex Campbell, I wish I could visit Scotland and Ireland again. You never know. It's easy for me to say I live here. I've never actually been to Southern Ireland. I've been to Northern Ireland a few times, but it's quite handy when the ferry's just on your doorstep in Dumfries and Galloway, which is where I kind of grew up. There's an old preserved late 19th century tenement house museum. Yes, it's called the Tenement House in Glasgow, and I keep meaning to go to it. I'm going to go into Glasgow and do some really quick videos in there over the next couple of weeks. So the Tenement House is on my list of things to do, along with the Duke of Wellington and his cone head, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. But I'll do a short about that as well. Am I the eldest brother? Is it that obvious? Yeah, yes, I am the eldest brother. You can tell by the kind of grey muzzle, white muzzle, I suppose. I loved Edinburgh, stayed at the old Waverley and walked everywhere. Yeah, pretty good public transport as well. Max the Protagon, what happened on Saturday, April 26, 1986 at 1:22 a.m? I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure. I love Leith in Edinburgh Old Town. Yeah, it's really nice. You can say Habibi. I can. I suspect Robert is the oldest then, James then, great places in Scotland. Looking forward to visit. Yes, it's really nice. I am massively biased, but yeah, there's lots of kind of crazy kind of countryside, and it all looks so different because you've got bits of a country that come from different kind of historically from different tectonic plates as well, and it's all been kind of pushed up in the middle as well where they joined. That's my kind of basic understanding of geology. James Parker sculpture, that's not repeatable. Wayne Bonky or Dull? Yes, Dull. Twinned with Boring, I believe. Is Boring somewhere in the States? Is it Texas maybe? But yeah, if you go to Dull, it says Dull twinned with Boring. Annie D. My 10 times great granddad was Captain William Bailey, murdered in 1724. He was sentenced to hang 3 times but let off. Lots of strange stories with this family. Yeah, Deacon. That was the thing I liked about Deacon Brodie was he was murdered. He was hanged on a gallows of his own invention, which he was quite. Although he did try to get out of it, so he had an iron collar on, and he had bribed the hangman to kind of put the noose around the iron collar so that he didn't actually die, but something went wrong. Well, so they say. And a sentence, stress migraine, yes. Love a stress migraine. Linlithgow Palace is cool. I've been outside Linlithgow Palace, but I need to go back inside soon because I've never actually, because it only recently opened up again, so it was kind of closed for a while. Culloden had an eerie feel, yeah, definitely. Have I ever been to Shetland? No, but I'd love to go. Can you say, get out of my swamp? It's my best Shrek impression. Gets out of... Nah, I'm not gonna... that would be an impression of like Mike Myers or something. Going for Shrek vibes. Either that or donkey. Donkey. Can you say purple burglar alarm? No. No Scottish person can say purple burglar alarm. Starter, Rennie Mackintosh Designs in Glasgow. Yeah, actually I went to the Mackintosh School of Art, the bit that you can see of it just now, and then I went to see the Hill House in Helensburgh. So there's a video up about that. In fact, I put a reel out about I was in the V&A recently, and I was in the Oak Room, which comes from the old Ingram Street tea rooms in Glasgow. That's quite cool. Boring, Oregon. Oh, there you go. Catherine, wasn't there a road built over Culloden at the time? At one point, I'm not sure, to be honest. There's lots of kind of paths and things through it, but I'm not sure. Best tourist spot in Scotland. God, there's so many. Best tourist spot. What would be my best tourist spot in Scotland? Glencoe's hard to beat, just from something to look at, but probably lesser. I mean, in terms of depends what you want. I like driving places, so I quite like I like the old military road, which goes up. So it's not Glencoe, but it goes up. It's the highest road, the highest main road in Scotland, and it goes past Glenshee, and it's just a really cool kind of driving road. And that takes you to, eventually you wind up in Braemar, and you can kind of go and see the Highland Games Museum and things, or the Highland Games if you're there at the time. And that's still busy, but compared to Glencoe, probably not quite as busy. Although in the skiing season, obviously it's very busy. What do you know of the Lindsay clan? Not that much, to be honest. I know there was a fairly early Lindsay Tartan. And the reason I know that was because somebody had been doing some research on it, and I think it was because they'd been looking at a Lindsay tartan that had been sent to the US at the end of the 18th century. Although it wouldn't necessarily have been a clan tartan, so it was probably a tartan that was cooked up by one of the weavers and given a name, effectively, rather than any kind of historical connection. Stan Valentine, love your channel, thank you very much. Hi from South Carolina, hello. I like to rent a car and get lost in Scotland until it's time to leave. Yeah, I mean, I just love driving places, to be honest. Any pub on karaoke night in Scotland will hold all the essential experiential, I can't say that either, purple burglar alarm, elements you're looking for. Wayne, build. Been to the Highland Games in Scotland and across in the US. Do I wear a kilt? Not as, something I did not realise is the number of people in the US that actually wear kilts. I didn't know this, and somebody told me this after I made a video about kilts, and I kind of took it with a pinch of salt, because they said more people wear kilts in the US than do in Scotland. And then over time I made this video about the history of the kilt, and over time I started getting loads and loads of comments from people saying that they wear kilts every day, and some of them aren't even Scottish, so apparently there's loads of people in the US that wear kilts just as a thing. In Scotland we don't tend to wear kilts every day unless you're a tour guide or you work in some kind of location where kind of Highland dress is a thing, maybe working in a hotel or something. I would wear a kilt for a wedding or maybe like a rugby match or something like that. Although the rugby match I went to with my brother, we saw somebody wearing a kilt and just thought it's too cold for this, carry on. So yeah, I do sometimes, but not that often. I think the last time I wore a kilt was my brother's 40th birthday party. Yeah, I had a very sore head the next day. What's the top favourite food in Scotland? Curry, probably, is the most popular food in Scotland. Glasgow, there's some very good curry houses in Glasgow. It's said that chicken tikka masala was invented in Scotland, but that's debated by other people as well. Could you do a video about the Blarney Stone? I think that's in Ireland, isn't it? So if I ever get over there, I'm not kissing the Blarney Stone. That just looks like a good way to break your neck. Food, yeah. So yeah, chicken tikka. Like curry is the most popular food in Scotland, I believe. But people we don't have the best diet. We have some amazing food that we're that you can obviously get. So smoked salmon and really amazing beef. Again, not biased on that, grew up on a beef farm, but we do produce amazing beef and lamb and things. But a lot of us tend to have pretty bad diets. I don't know if it's something to do with the temperature or the lack of daylight in the winter or something like that, but comfort food is always junk food is everywhere, as you can imagine. Traditionally it was haggis, but it's mostly curry or pizza, yeah, pretty much. Annie D, if I was a man, I'd have a beard and wear a kilt daily. Never wear a skirt though. Love the accent, thank you. Best curry in Inverness. Where's that? Sounds good. I do love curry. I didn't like it so much when I was a kid, but my brother James really loves curry. Don't know if he's still around after making filthy jokes on the feed. What else was I going to say? So yeah, working on Tartan Mania, history of Tartan, Johnny Walker. Gonna do a video about the North Coast 500, just because I want to go and do the North Coast 500, and I'll see bits of country there that I've never seen before. So right up to the kind of top of the country. But yeah, that should happen in the next few weeks. I'm going to take my ridiculous little car, or my wife's ridiculous little car, and go all the way around the top of the country. It's probably perfect for the job because you've got lots of tight little roads, which should be good. Trying to get fit again. So you might see some kind of videos and stuff about running. I'm going to try and do some charity stuff this year with the running to try and motivate myself, but also to try and do something for a couple of charities that I'm interested in, to do with name a car for an edit. What to have? Smoked salmon and venison, yes. What was I saying? Yeah, so a couple of charities. So it'll be something to do with mental health and Lyme disease, which are both things that have affected people close to me in the past. Hi, I'm Mark. I work for YouTube. If you need anything, let me know. I'd be happy to help you checking out streamers. Annie D, Durness is one of my favourite places, Smoo Caves. Yeah, I kind of want to go there when I'm doing the North Coast 500 actually. Love chicken tikka, yes. Do comedy again, I'd watch. I don't know if I've got time. One day. I enjoy the channel because I like to learn about history. There's vegan options you can eat. I have been up a few times kind of recently, but it's an area I don't know that well, and I need to kind of remedy that, and that's part of the reason that I'm going to go and do the North Coast 500 is to see a bit of that, go and see the kind of Cape Wrath and the apple and have a look at that. Maybe go dinosaur, can't say dinosaur either, dinosaur footprint hunting, because you can see dinosaur footprints down in the shore and sky. And there's obviously things like the fairy pools and that kind of thing as well. I'm warm enough in summer to swim. Is it warm enough in the summer to swim on the shore? It's always pretty cold. I think the sea temperature is fairly consistent. If you go down to the kind of west coast, we've got the Gulf Stream, so it might be a bit warmer. The North Sea, where I am in Edinburgh, is probably not that warm. But yeah, I know a lot of people that do kind of what they call it wild swimming these days, or open water swimming. So yeah, it's definitely, a lot of people do swim, and the cold is actually part of the reason they go in, because it's that kind of cold water immersion thing where it kind of gives you a bit of a kick and a bit of a dopamine boost as well. Whiskey is a thing of its own. Either everyone speaks the same language after drinking, they slur, and yeah, pretty much. It's not warm enough any time of year. Yeah, I'd say that's fair. Yeah. Where do most Scottish people, like to go on vacation? Europe, probably. Somewhere hot. Italy, Greece. Yeah, a lot of people, you've probably seen over the past few years since lockdown and things, people kind of staying around the UK a little bit more. But certainly I noticed last year when I was kind of traveling around, there's a lot more people on holiday from outside the UK in the Highlands and things. So it's good to see the kind of Scottish tourist industry taking off again. But yeah, we tend to try and holiday somewhere hot. I don't know whether I'll be getting abroad this year or not, but we'll see. Quite like to go to Italy. If it's me, that's where I like to go on holiday if I can. As well as Scotland, and the north of England's quite nice as well. Northumberland, Yorkshire, that kind of thing. Scotland to retain the Calcutta Cup on Saturday. No comment. It's the way things are going this year. I don't know. it's any kind of guess. It would have to be better than what happened kind of the week before last. Do you miss the characters and the comedy still game? My son told me about this 25 years ago, but living in England, we could only get it on BBC Two. Yeah, still game was good. It's not something I've watched an awful lot of, but it's maybe a bit too close to reality around here. I don't know. But yeah, still game, extremely well written. Definitely somewhere hot, but you've been to Iceland. Yeah, I'd like to go to Iceland as well, to be honest. The Highlands in winter is great. Yeah, fancy that as well. Emma, sorry I'm late. That's okay. Don't worry. Do you ever trim hooves with your brother? I did. Well, I didn't trim the hooves, but I went out with him May last year. So when I first kind of started doing this, I went out with him with me. So I went out with. Yeah, we went to kind of farm fairly close by. And God, yeah, it's they're extremely well coordinated in what they do, the pair of them, the three of them now. So one of them's doing one thing and the other person knows what they're doing, and they're kind of, between them, somebody's doing the front hooves and someone's doing the back hooves. But it's the smell that got me, which I hadn't really thought of, was the smell of the burning hooves, because of course they're using grinders to chop off bits of hoof. Hopefully just bits of hoof. Nah, they're fine. What else was I going to say? I think that's kind of it. Obviously, as I said, writing a book, so we'll see how that goes, but keep your eye out for what's going on with that. Pedon's Cove, that was a lot of fun, going down there. And just kind of, there's a lot of finding new and interesting places is part of the buzz of doing this, you know, things you didn't have a clue about. And then just kind of going along and finding out that there's a story attached to it. And kind of trying as best as I can to try and tell that story, is the kind of buzz of what I'm doing with this, I suppose. Your visit is, after watching Scotland Unplugged, my visit is to visit any I really need reading glasses. Kate Carnes, same date, Slater Time 2053. Book will be amazing. I hope so. I hope I do a decent job on it. We'll see. No pressure. What else was I going to say? So I think that's pretty much it, really. Just really popping on for a chat more than anything. Just to tell you about the change in time slot. So sorry if you're expecting a video last night. I've moved it on to the Thursday, and that's effectively just to put it in a nice time slot before the weekend, so that it's there on the Thursday night for anybody out on a Thursday night wanting to watch something, but also it's kind of effectively landed by the Friday morning. So if you want to watch on the Friday morning, it's there. If you're sitting on the bus on the way to work and you're maybe in a good mood and you want to watch something, or you're in a bad mood and you want something to cheer you up, that, for me, that would be quite a good time slot. So we'll see how that goes. I may move it again if there's a better time slot. Depends what everyone else thinks as well. John D, great work on the channel. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching, and thank you all for all the comments. I don't always get the chance to reply to the comments. I do read all the comments, but yeah, I'm sorry if I don't get the chance to reply to all of them, but thank you very much for all the comments that are on the channel. It means a lot to be able to read them, and I really do read every one of them. And it's all good feedback, and it's all kind of, it kind of makes it all worth doing when you can actually see people are watching and they're engaged with it and stuff. And thank you for all the support over the past few months. I posted something the other day where I'd been flagged by YouTube as a rising creator, which was great. I mean, to actually have that and to be on the kind of trending page was amazing. It was a big kind of boost, but it's people watching that makes all that happen. So it's you that makes that happen. It's not me that makes that happen. If I was making videos and nobody was watching them, it'd be like shouting into the void, I suppose, more than anything. We will find you, and maybe a couple of years late, but I find them great work. Please keep them coming. Thank you very much. But yeah, thank you very much for all the comments and all the support over the past few months. Thank you to everybody who brought merch. It was a lot of fun putting it all together and doing the kind of competition and stuff, and the run up to Christmas, I suppose. Although we had to do it quite far in advance of Christmas because the mad Christmas rush of getting these things out. But yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that. Probably nobody knows this, but I studied design and things at university, so to put that into kind of a little bit of that into practice was always fun, and we were really blown away by the response. So thank you very much for that. What am I missing here? Let's see. Your personality rocks. Thank you very much. Hi from Florida. Hello. Your channel's good. Thank you. Great storytelling. Do you like teens? What? Not entirely sure what you mean by that, but Het, greetings from Spain. Thank you very much. Merch, Hildeberg, Gordon Ramsay. Merchandise. Thank you. Enjoy videos. Yeah, thank you very much. We're from Texas. My daughter will attend University of Edinburgh in the Hall, and I'm preparing to move to Scotland. Where is a great place to settle with easy access to trails and Edinburgh? Edinburgh, I mean, even in Edinburgh, you've got quite good access to trails. So where I live is just kind of in the suburbs, and I can literally walk out my door and in 5 minutes be on a trail alongside a river, and just kind of, and that will take you all the way out to the Pentland Hills. So even in Edinburgh itself, you're never that far away from a trail. So there's a river that runs right the way through it, and it's not like a big river, so it's not like the Clyde or something like that. Although even in Glasgow, actually, you can go along the kind of Kelvin Way, which will take you all the way out to, all the way out to Falkirk eventually. But yeah, in Edinburgh, there are lots of places you can go. There's obviously East Lothian's great in terms of being just outside Edinburgh, and lots of places to walk, lots of beaches, lots of very nice beaches out that way, and even like West Lothian, there's interesting places, Mid Lothian, lots of kind of historical bits and bobs and places you can go walking around Edinburgh. It's kind of like it's almost like a big town more than a city, I would say, although it's got a big buzz about it. There's lots of people who want to be here. But yeah, in terms of Edinburgh, I always remember my granddad studied here when he was obviously in his teens. And he said that was the thing he always took away, was the fact it was like a big town rather than a city. Although that was a while ago. We're from Texas. Oh, I've already just read that one. You've really helped our homeschool history project this year. Thank you very much. This was fun, thanks, and good afternoon from Washington, USA. Thank you very much. Edinburgh's quite expensive, Wayne, you're right, it is. East Lothian or West Lothian cheaper, yeah, that's true. Great public transport to Edinburgh, and in Edinburgh as well, the public transport's really good. You help my Cambridge advanced students train their listening accent plus interesting content. I do have a strange accent. It's kind of a muddled up accent as well, because I'm not from Edinburgh, but I've lived in Edinburgh for about, I came here when I was 18, but this time around I've lived here for about 15 years, 16 years. And before that I lived in Glasgow, so it's a bit of a mishmash of an accent. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, East Lothian probably, there isn't much price difference between East Lothian and Edinburgh these days. Yeah, my my daughter would like to know, what's your favourite part of Scotland? So I like Galloway because I'm from there. I like the East Coast. I like kind of East Lothian. But I mean, everybody loves the Highlands. And I think the kind of, always got a soft spot for Strathspey, which is, Strathspey is kind of Glenlivet area. So there's a lot of whiskey distilleries around there. That's not why I like it, but there's just a lot of kind of history around there. So it's, yeah, Strathspey, kind of Aviemore area. It's a place I like to go on holiday. And went there for my 40th and kind of hired a cabin and basically just hung out there for a few days. And it's a place that's always nice to see. It's quite strange because it's like a kind of ski resort in Scotland, and there's bits of it that are very kind of 1970s, but I quite like that. The fact that it's maybe a wee bit dated in places. Face the Ace, hi from Allentown, Pennsylvania. I was going to say, sounds like you're from Glasgow. Yeah, so yeah, I'm from the West Coast, so I suppose I've got a bit of a West Coast accent. Bar Brown, I'm at work down at a Watch 3 play. Fun, not so posh. Yes, definitely can't accuse me of being posh. Donny Stuff's Hello Father. He was going to say, my dad loved a whiskey from Strathspey. Yeah, so a lot of people love the Strathspey. Has a very distinct taste to it. Strathspey is a kind of a big region for whiskey, and then you've got kind of Islay, and you've got kind of Campbelltown, and you've got all the lots of different regions that have their own distinct kind of flavours as well. I don't know enough about it, I must admit, which is why I need kind of educating, which is a very good excuse to make a video about whiskey. Where are you from? The United Kingdom? Yes, obviously. Yeah, Scotland and the United Kingdom. Cool, right. I am going to head off and go and say goodnight to my kids, and then get some stuff sorted for tomorrow, and go and see where we're going. But thank you all again for just all the support over the past few months, and thanks all for turning up tonight. It's always good to chat. Obviously, you will see the next video coming out at 5 o'clock GMT, so that's 5 hours ahead of Florida, I think 4 hours ahead of Eastern kind of New York time, something like that. But yeah, hope everyone has Hildebert, where's your merchandise? If you check on YouTube, you'll be able to see that there's kind of links at the bottom of the videos on YouTube. So there's a kind of store on there, and it should be on Facebook as well. Thanks for your lovely chat as well, Marky Riggs. Right, I'm going to disappear. Have a brilliant rest of the night. Have a brilliant rest of the week. And I will see you, although I won't see you, but you'll see me on Thursday. Thank you very much.